Well, looks like we got one of those dead calm, no wind, clear blue skies, glassy water kind of mornings. I'm fishing the slough today. I'm actually going to float my way down and work my way back up. We'll talk about this here in a second. Ready to run and gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Morning, guys. Todd here with you. Welcome back to Bassin 101. Like I said, man, it's a beautiful morning. No clouds. They ain't started crop dusting with planes yet. No wind. Just a glassy water situation. The river's back down to normal level. And you know, I've been doing soft plastics all year, and I've gotten a few emails from some guys that especially one in particular, my buddy Mark, says, man, quit throwing the Senko all the time, you're better than that. And some other comments I've gotten from guys, so I figured, okay, I'll switch it up a little bit. I ain't done much with them last few years, so I'm going to throw top water today. What I'm going to do, I'm at the slough. I'm at the very top of the slough, and I got just enough current. I'm going to float all the way down to the end of the slough, and I'm going to throw top water the whole time because this side will stay shady as the sun comes up, and then my way back up I'll throw soft plastics. But I figured, you know, I haven't seen the first thing come up today since I've been on the water, since I paddled out here. And it only takes me like 10 minutes to get here. That's why I fish the slough a lot, because it gives me access to deep water pretty quick. So, yeah, I'm throwing a pop bar on a spinning rod, but I've got 3 rods rigged up. And I brought 3 rods with me, but I have 3 rods rigged up with 3 different top waters. So I'll explain those as I go. This is just a regular old Rebel T60, your standard 1/4 ounce size Tennessee shad, and I tie my own hackle on these things. Of course, I beat the hooks up. This has got the old eel claw feather lights on it. Let's see if I can get this thing done. And I did, since you got a Tennessee shad color, I did white with a little bit of lime and an orange flashaboo to kind of match the mouth. You know, just make it all one good looking package like that. And I don't like a lot of hackle because I think it takes away from the bait. And guys, when you buy these pop bars like this, get rid of that bucktail, because what it does is it adds drag, and it actually kills the action of the bait. So if you go to a hackle, whether you buy a pre-bought hackle, you know, Gamakatsu makes them, Mustad makes them, Owner makes them, or you can tie them yourself to match the bait you got, or just use white. Just use a white trailer. It doesn't matter. But I want to try these while I'm going down the slough, and see if I can't put something together. So I'm fishing a downed tree, and got hung up in some some limbs floating on top. This tree snapped off about, I'd say probably about a couple 100 yards above the river, and it kind of settled right here. And I went to get my popper, and right next to it, floating in the water, I seen this. Just floating there. So I guarantee you somebody probably got caught in that tree. And when that tree fell, just took it with it. It looks like a sexy shad color. I ain't got my glasses on, but it looks to me like it's a Whopper Plopper 55. An actual Whopper Plopper. You know, I'm sure some of you guys are probably thinking, man, throw that thing. I'll be honest with you, I can't catch a cold on these things, so I don't throw them. But that's pretty cool find, though. I bet that person's mad. You know, just a little thing here about custom building your own rods. You know, this is an MHX. It's from Mudhole, and it's rated for up to a 3/8 ounce. It's like a finesse rod. I wish you'd look at the backbone of this thing. You know, Super soft tip. I have really fallen in love with these rod blanks because they have such super soft tips on them. And man, it's just you just see the rod tip doing this as you're working a topwater bait. It's crazy, man. I love this. Okay, so bait number 2 I have tied on this morning on a casting rod. Any of you guys remember these? The old Bangley chugga lures. This has got the prop on the end of it. Not much of a chugger mouth. The scoop bottom right here. Sits about like that in the water. But you know, probably a lot of you guys know in rivers, you know, the baby torpedo, it's hard to beat, man. Just that rear prop type bait, which I've got a baby torpedo back here. But I ain't fished one of these chugga lures since I was probably in high school. And yeah, sorry guys, they are discontinued. But you can find them on eBay. I mean, you know, but it's got, with that split ring on the front, it kind of has a walking dog kind of format. And you got just enough of that prop to churn some water up. But what's cool about it is you can adjust the prop. You know, you can close it, make it go faster. You can open it up to keep it one area longer, which is what I'm doing here. But and this is the 3-inch, and cast like a bullet. You know, I wonder if Jim Bagley knew about this, but on his chugga lure, you put your rod tip down and keep that thing going at a consistent speed. It works like a real fine buzz bait, but the bait will do this in the water. That's pretty cool. I don't think he intentionally meant to do that, but it's pretty cool. And now we're at bait number 4. Now bait number 4 I kind of had to make. This is a 1999 Lure Jensen. I love these old Lure Jensens, man. They got such a good finish on them, and they're good and solid. Take epoxy well if you want to build the finish up even better. Made of cedar, but actually it's a Nipididi dual prop bait body, but it came as just a body with 2 line ties, or line tie and 2 hooks. Nothing fancy. So what I did is I've got about a 5/16 quarter inch or 5/16 solid steel bead that I had to drill a little bit bigger hole through to get the screw eye back here, and I tied a hackle that matches what the bait looks like. Now what this is, it's a dottle bait. It sits in the water like this. If you guys are familiar with the old Smithwick toothpicks, or even better than that, the tail weighted boy howdies, that's what this is, but it's in a smaller, bulkier package. And you know, baits like this, like the boy howdies and things like that, I like a hackle at the bottom of it, because this thing sits about this far in the water and they don't have to break the surface to take it. And you can throw this thing in, and you know, it sits about, it's not straight up and down, it sits at an angle, so you can actually walk it if you wanted to. And don't get this thing caught in your net. But I've also got a split ring, one of those oval split rings on the front, so I can walk the dog with it. And I'm moving along here pretty good. Got a little gentle breeze blowing me, so I'm going to go back up here and fish where I left off with that chugga lure. And this dottle bait, you can use it in deep water, you can use it in shallow water. That's what's cool about it. You can walk the dog with it, but you're going to have to keep in mind it's going to have very short little hops. It's not like a Zara spook that has a long body, allows it to glide. So yeah, what I've got here is about 12 foot of water, and to me that's about the cutoff point for a bait of this type. 10-12 foot, it's about the deepest I'll throw it. and you just sit there and just dawdle it. And like I said, they don't have to, it's almost like watching a bobber. If they take it by that hackle, you'll just see the lure go dunk. That's what's cool about them. But it will walk the dog. That's another advantage to this bait too. It's very quiet. It's a very subtle bait, just like a walking bait is. It's very subtle. That's what I like about it. Well, what do you know? I had one load up on it on a Pop R. I got to thinking, you know, just go back to the top water I have the most confidence in when it comes to pinpointing spots and covering water. And I always have one of those around. Good tournament fish. About 13, 14 inches. Never even saw the hit. I just saw the Pop R just go, and he had it. Isn't it pretty? All right. Thank you very much, buddy. Chester, that's for you. I used to have a Dalmatian that was one of my best fishing buddies, and he loved topwater. Man, he loved topwater. So every time I catch one on topwater, I dedicate it to him. But now I got all in my net. That's okay. I'll do that. So that was on that Tennessee Shad Pop R right there. But let me pass a little tip on to you guys here. When you go to buy a net for your boat, john boat, kayak, bass boat, doesn't matter. Yeah, I got a pretty decent size one here, pretty deep to catch some pretty decent fish in it. But choose a net that you can get your hooks out of. I learned my lesson on that. But this is a very tightly woven netting that the hooks can't penetrate into and get barbed in. So it's pretty easy to get it out. It's got a pretty good, you can see it's got a pretty good distance in it. Just throwing that tip off to you. Don't be like me and buy something that's all fancy, and next thing you know you get barbed in it and can't get your bait out of it and everything, and you just cuss and fuss and everything else. Say about every word in the book the Bill Dance won't say. But man, that was fun. Now that was in shallow water. I was showing you guys this brush pile that I fish on the other side of this slough, and that's where he was. He's on the upper end of it in about 4 or 5 foot of water. And I just got to thinking, I was like, well, I ain't doing nothing over here deep. So let's try something shallow on top water. And you know, he didn't want to break the surface. He hit that hackle. But man, let's see if we can do that again. That was pretty cool. All right, still kind of chilly out here. It's like in the upper 50s. I put down the Pop R, and I'm going to soft plastics, but I'm not going to do Senkos. I got 2 different rigs tied up. I know I'm an old school kind of guy, but I saw these and I thought that's something similar to what I came up with years ago. Just never did anything with it. A hover rig. This is a Core Tackle Matt Steffen hover rig. This is an 1/8 ounce. I got some 3/64s coming, but that's on a 4-inch quiver worm, Missile Baits quiver worm. I just love that worm. And Super Bug, man, that's just an all-around good color to throw. Very interesting fall. And the other bait, or the other rig I have tied on, is also a Missile Baits quiver worm. This is in fried melon with that Eagle Claw Shaw Grigsby HP hook, which I have flattened the barb on. I did not flatten the barb on the hover rig because it's a jig head. and that just gives them a little too much weight to throw back. And jig heads, they're less, I don't think I've ever had a gut hooked fish on a jig head, so I'm good there. But this is my own little rig here, and I call this the trick shot. What the trick shot is, it's basically just a heavier version of a drop shot, which I don't like drop shots, but this is only, this is the tag from a Palomar knot. It's only about 2 inches long. I got a 3/16 tungsten weight on here, and it kind of gives me a Texas rig, but I can also shake it up right at the very bottom too. And I got this on 14-pound test, but I just thought I'd try that today too, see what goes on with it. And while I got this up here, I'm going to go ahead and put some stinky stuff on it, smelly jelly. But go ahead and put some of that on there, and I also took a little bit of chartreuse on that tail. So I'm kind of curious to see what these two things do. I'm curious to see if that hover rig twists my line or not real bad. We're going to find out. Let's get on with it. I'm basically just giving this hover rig just a pull and just letting it fall on slack line. Maybe twitch it a couple times. It's really all I'm doing with it. I had a buddy of mine tell me about this rig. He showed me some of the jig heads, and I was like, huh, well, that is kind of interesting. So I figured I'd give it a shot after I did some research on it. I don't know, let's see what goes. You know what I found about this rig already? It's fairly weedless. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of just one wire, but so far it's been pretty weedless. And if I do get it hung, even though I have braid to a mono, I snap it that, I showed you guys that little, slapping the base. Boom, you're snapping it to get it loose. It pops right out. But it does have quite a bit of line twist. So it's still going too. So I'm gonna go to the other rig and play with that, see what happens. The trick shot. Boy, this dude went jumping everywhere, and as soon as he went in the net, he came off. I figured I better get this dude quick. Woo! Still full of it. Nice largemouth. He's still rearing ready to go. Caught him on. That's the only mean about getting a hook out of a net. Caught him on the Superbug color worm. This is the 4.5-inch quiver. And he got my little trick shot all zingied up. I'll have to retie this because he got me in a brush pile. But with that little 2-inch leader, 1/8 ounce drop weight, and fishing that HP hook, Eagle Claw HP hook with a smash barb. That's why I get the net and get them in quick, especially when he gets jumping the way he did. But yeah, he wrecked my line all the way up into here. So I have to retie this sucker, but it's worth it. So how about that? The trick shot. Bet you ain't never heard of that one, have you? That's a Bassin 101 exclusive. Right. Okay, so I got the wind picking up a little bit. I'm kind of into where I can kind of round this morning out a little bit. And so I got a little bit of wind coming up. A lot of, I've seen quite a few bass chasing my worm back to the boat as I'm reeling it back in. So what I went to finish out the morning, a little 3/8 ounce finesse spinnerbait. This is made by Bizbaits, Old South. It's just the, it's called a rocket shad, or guppy rocket, I think is what it's called. Anyway, it's the same way I would build a spinnerbait. It's got a real light 032 wire, kind of an offset right here, which is cool because, you know, spinnerbait bodies usually ride like this in the water. This one rides almost dead level. I kind of like that. But this is one of the hidden weight little spinnerbait deals. Kind of like in a citrus shad kind of color, still kind of translucent. But just a little 3/8 ounce finesse spinnerbait, double Willa. And I thought about, you know, altering the distance of the blades a little bit, but it runs pretty good the way it is. So I'm gonna finish out the day with this dude. And since they're willing to chase that worm, I'll see if they're willing to chase this. I'm not gonna overpower it, but I am twitching it as I'm fishing it, kind of making that skirt kind of flutter. And we'll see what happens from here. Man, I had one just knock the fire out of this thing. And because it didn't have a trailer hook on, I didn't get him. I had him on for a second. I mean, it felt like a decent one. Well, what I'm doing is I'm taking my skirt and putting it in this smelly jelly, just the very tip of it, just kind of gently pressing with my finger just to get some on there. I normally don't run scent on a spinnerbait, but since I have a silicone skirt rather than over a rubber skirt, I'll definitely use it just for kicks. But very well balanced bait. I really like that. Of course, I make my own spinnerbaits too, but you know, the thing that really sold me on this, if you can see it, they use a red wire. So these are hand tied. And I like them because you can spin them around in the position you like. This colors actually come on the bottom of the bait, like a war eagle. But I spin them around. I actually like my accents on top. That's just me. But yeah, I ain't trying to plug anybody. Don't get me wrong. I'm just letting you know what I'm using, and, you know, experimenting with it. I pulled up on a rock pile here, and the wind's blowing hard enough that I actually had to anchor in order to fish it. You know, they're calling for light and variable winds. They can stick it. This ain't light and variable winds. I can paddle through it, but it's just enough to where you can't sit still. So anchored up on this rock pile. Like I said, I had one just knock the fire out of it, and missed him. But there's still some more places to hit. Daggone it, that's now 2 I've had load up on that spinnerbait. And because I ain't got a trailer hook, I missed them. I don't like throwing trailer hooks when I'm worming a spinnerbait through cover. You're just asking to get hung up. And the way I have this thing trimmed, it came with a pretty long skirt, but I've got it trimmed, you know, 3/4 of an inch behind the hook. But I'm just not getting a hook in them. They're hitting it, just not getting one in them. Now I know if I threw a trailer hook on that dude, I stayed hung up all the time. Because like I said, I'm throwing this. I'm now up in the shallower section of the river, getting close to where I put in at, and yes, I'm only fishing 4 or 5 foot of water. Just kind of slow rolling that thing through brush piles, and trailer hook will just keep me staying hung up the whole entire time. But sometimes you need to throw one. I don't know. I just keep chucking until I'm done. There's one on a spinnerbait right up here in the shallower water on the rocks. Another tournament fish too. Yeah, I didn't need a trailer hook. Yeah, that's another good tournament fish right there. Look at there. He just right top of the head. Now, I don't go barbless with spinner baits. You kind of break my spinner bait up a little bit. Good fat fish. He's been eating crawfish up there. Nice one. All right, thank you, buddy. Well, I got the pattern wired. You know, got one on a worm, one on a top water, one on a spinner bait. Yeah, I got this sucker figured out, let me tell you. Actually, you know, the wind picked up, and like I said, I seen a bunch of them begin to chase my worm back to the boat as I was reeling it in. So I got to thinking, I was like, well, if they're willing to chase, I don't mind throwing a spinner bait. There you go, there's that guppy rocket. You can get these heads, you know, from lure parts online, and you know, put your own skirt on them if you want to, but they mold these with the 032 wire, which is what I like. I like that real thin wire. I'm an old hog collar kind of guy from, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, throwing hog collars and stuff like that, and you know, they all had a light wire on them. And a hog collar was a really good bait. They still make them. Lucker Lure owns them now, but yeah, he was right, like about 2 foot of water right up on the bank where there's just huge boulders under the water, and right across from the creek that I come out of. I mean, he knocked the fire out of it. We got a little bit of wind up here, so we're gonna keep on going. Hello, Mr. Turtle. We're gonna keep on going, and I got a little while longer. I'm gonna keep that spinnerbait going. That's what I'm gonna do. Yep, 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 yep. Well, I guess I'm gonna call it. I'm starting to head back up a creek. So did I learn anything today? Yeah. Not the biggest fan of the hover rig, I know that. Only way to throw a rig like that would be with a real small swivel, you know, 6 inches or so above it. Would probably help. Ball bearing swivel. The official Bassin 101 secret rig of the day, the trick shot, damages a line too much. That's also one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of the drop shot. You know, it tends to wrap around your main line, especially when you hook a fish. It'll tear your line up. I'm lucky I didn't lose that fish. So that's out. However, that quiver worm on a Nico rig or Neko rig, however you call it, count me in, buddy. That's what I'm going to do. Fish that thing. I mean, you can Texas rig it too. I mean, I don't have any problem Texas rigging it. I mean, I've got the hooks to do it. But I think the Deco is going to be my main deal for that little setup. And I think the other way I'm going to throw it's probably going to be on a jig head. You just rig it up like a shaky head type of thing. I just call it Texas rigging a jig head. But that's what I've learned today. That spinner bait. Got my confidence in spinner baits again, which is good. And it was really nice to get one on top water. I'll tell you, that made my day right there. And like I said, never saw it hit. I just see my pop art disappear. That orange face helps. But I'm going to head on back and regroup my tackle a little bit. I'm still simplifying everything, and I'm telling you guys, I'm like that close. I'm that close to finishing it. I finally found me a box that I really like, and holds everything I need and limits me to what I can carry and tackle, which is important because it really makes you think what you would throw. So a bunch of baby smallmouth right there. So I'll do an episode on that here down the road. But that's all I got today, guys. Glad you got to come along with me, and I'm glad I got to catch fish on something else besides a Senko. Anyway, that one's for you, Mark. You turkey. Anyway, until next time, guys, may the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name. As always, fish on.